Cool. Hello again. It's been a while since I've done anything too much sort of football related, I suppose, at least on my YouTube channel. I've been sort of focusing in on it a little bit more on the TikTok side of things. So I decided I needed a nice, fun subject to talk about, take up the time on YouTube. And I thought, why not have a chat about the team that is top of the league, that's absolutely smashing it, not was it 9 points or so away from sort of teams in second. See, that's Liverpool. Now, Liverpool, I think they've got a very good chance of winning the title based on where they currently are, how they're doing, and sort of some of the struggles of the other teams around them. However, they've got sort of a very large issue looming over them right now, and that's the contract issues. The contract issues sort of being that the three of the main sort of staple players of this Liverpool team over the past few years, their contracts are all up. At the end of the summer, they could potentially sign pre-contract agreements with teams outside the UK in less than a month's time. So will that happen? Will that not? Let's have a look. Let's have a dive into it. So obviously the three players that I am going to talk about are Van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Mohamed Salah. Now, going into this, there's not been too many links regarding clubs interested in Virgil van Dijk. Not been too many other teams. Well, there's been a few soft links with Mohamed Salah being sort of rumoured around PSG and potentially in particular last summer over a move to the Saudi League. And I suppose the player that has been linked with the move away the most, or at least the media seems to be generating links around it, is Trent Alexander-Arnold to Real Madrid. Now, Real Madrid do need a right back. That is clear. They could sound them out and potentially start offering a contract sort of obviously very soon. And this would be a very Real Madrid move, is to sort of say, well, we're not going to pay Liverpool X amount. If you just wait a little bit, we can pay you with that amount, and Real Madrid can give them bigger wages. And they've done this with other players before from the Premier League, sort of signing them on free contracts. People like Antonio Rudiger, and they've got the great potential to do that again with Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, Trent is it's safe to say he's in the conversation of being one of the best right backs in the world. He is a very unique right back in how he plays, sort of having obviously originated in midfield, and then just Liverpool trying to get him into the team any way possible, getting him in at right back. It's because of his amazing passing range. I don't think there's many other fullbacks that can boast his attacking credentials going forward for what is still sort of a fairly young career, to be honest. And so this season under Arne Slot, he's not been relied upon to do those Trent-like things as much in the way of sort of getting those balls into the box, sort of spraying the ball about. He's being asked to play as a more conventional right back, and so people can argue with Trent that he has some defensive shortcomings. I think his defending has gotten a lot better this season statistically. Potentially that's because of how he's been set up. He isn't obviously maybe getting forward as much, being in being in better positions defensively. Team sort of the midfield set up around him a bit nicer, sort of with Jurgen Klopp. Trent used to bomb forward and Jordan Henderson used to come into the sort of right back position to help cover him. Not been the same under Arne Slot. He's been doing a more conventional role. Now, in an ideal world, obviously, in all these players, you get a large amount of money to losing for a free. So, potentially what I want to think about is, if I let him go, who's the replacement? And this is a quite simple one. This is quite an easy one. It's Conor Bradley. It's as simple as that. 21-year-old Northern Irishman. Been in the club, knows the club, plays as a conventional right back, needs to get a few more minutes, let's be clear. Knows the players, knows the system, knows the team. Doesn't cost you anything. And I think he would perform the role that Arne Slot in himself would want more in having a conventional right back. Obviously, the right side will potentially have to have a rejig, obviously because of the player ahead of them further forward. I think he's shown sort of in some of the big games, in particular like games against Real Madrid recently. He's very solid defensively. He's very solid going forward. I think he plays in midfield for Northern Ireland internationally, potentially because he's one of their best players. I believe that this can only be a good thing, showing an element of versatility to his game. Obviously, he'd predominantly be needed at right back, but this could be a potential smart manoeuvre for Liverpool, as this is the player in my head that is the most likely out of the three to leave because of the strength of the rumours. Because I don't believe Liverpool, if they're dawdling over the contracts, that they can potentially sign all three of these players on sort of big money moves. Replacing him with someone from the academy just makes sense. It's sensible. No fuss. Obviously, ideally, you'd want him to stay because of how much of a unique sort of quality player, almost a unicorn in the fact of how he passes and how he plays the ball. But there's that very aspect that I don't think Arne Slot necessarily wants in his team the whole time. So that's sort of covered it with Trent, as I would argue, as I say, most likely to leave. After that, we've got Mohamed Salah. Now, he's obviously been in the news recently, having mentioned that Liverpool have not offered him a contract. Out of all the three players, he would probably be the player that was asking for the most amount of money. I believe he's one of Liverpool's better paid players. Obviously, soft links to the Saudi League. Fabrizio Romano sort of reported that they'd sort of about PSG potentially, although they're saying no. But I mean, you say no, you say yes. It's just not too sure on that one. So he's potentially he's one that's a bit hard to replace, and sort of he carries a lot of the attacking threat for Liverpool. You don't get consistent players like that banging in like 20 plus goals a season, 10 odd assists consistently for the last 3-4 years. You know what you're getting. You're getting like, he's not the most aesthetically pleasing player, but he's a guarantee statistically. He's going to get goals, he's going to get assists, he's going to be the fulcrum of your attack. He is the main man out of that front three. The rest of that front three can change. He does not. He's consistently within the team. He very rarely gets injured, which is another really important fact regarding him. Now, because of this, he'd be the most expensive player to replace, I believe, because I think attacking players, goal scorers, are the hardest to replace, as they are the money makers. They're the ones that make the difference in the end. So, if I was Liverpool, I'd go for a nice punchy move here. I'd have a look at Rodrigo at Real Madrid. I think that there is still an element of flexibility around that front line around Madrid. It's not settled necessarily. I think they're going to have to continue pushing through with Mbappe, with Vinicius Jr., with Bellingham. They need to find a way to make it to work. And I think a lot of people before the start of the season, with the signing of Mbappe, believed that this could be the thing that pushes Rodrigo out. Naturally, a left winger, which other people don't know, but because Vinicius Jr. does such a good job there for Real Madrid, he's flexible on both wings. He's not necessarily got the numbers in the same way that Salah has. So I've got 10 league goals last season, so 23, sort of coming into the peak of his powers. I'm of the belief that if he's made the main man, he can do the best. If things are channeled through him, I think he can make the difference. I think the versatility of him switching between the right and the left could be very useful as well. As one of the strengths of Liverpool's front line in itself is the fact that they are all quite flexible in their positioning. In the fact that I think people like Jota, Nunez, Diaz, they can play almost anywhere along that front three. And the idea of having that flexibility, the ability to swap and change it around, would be amazing, and it would be something that other teams would struggle to deal with. Now, obviously, one of the main men in Real Madrid is a very, very punchy shout. I'll admit that. you would unfortunately be looking at a potential sort of deal looking sort of between the 80 to 100 million sort of ballpark sort of figure, I'd say, realistically, to get them interested at the table. If I was Liverpool, I would honestly be looking at trying to actually properly negotiate with Mohamed Salah. I don't know whether this is a case of an issue over the sheer amount or the length of contract. Obviously, Salah is in his 30s, I believe he's 31, 32. So most teams at that point don't like offering out long contracts because there hasn't been a decline yet, but everyone's anticipating, everyone's waiting for that to happen. I think his consistency, I think he'd probably be good for another 2 years. I think when you start to see the decline is when you have to move him. You can't take out that amount of goals in a team and sort of accept everything to be fine. He's someone that I'm worried that they might lose, but I also think you need to show me the money as is said in the films. He's worth the money, because if you sort of try to account for sort of goals, a goal being worth sort of a few million in the Premier League, he pays his way easily enough. Let's be honest. Let's be clear. He's the one that I'm very hit and miss on because of the decisions to talk to the press about the contract. He knows what he's doing. Liverpool knows what he's doing. Liverpool know what they're doing. Someone needs to sit down, just be honest, have the conversation, see what goes on from there. Next up, we have Van Dijk. Now, Van Dijk is obviously the other side of 30 as well. He's not really been linked with anyone too much. He's sort of a left-sided centre-back. He doesn't seem to deteriorate in ability. He could still happily make the conversation of him being the best centre-back in the world. You could make the case for arguably Gabriel Saliba, Rudiger, someone else who I'm going to mention in a moment. He is up there at the peak of his powers. As a centre-back, I believe you can play that a little bit longer if you're smart with your play and your positioning. He showed no great deterioration. He showed small dips in sort of some of the off seasons that Liverpool have had, but no one's solidly coming in for him. He's settled, family settled. I'm of the belief that contract negotiations are happening with him. He's a captain. You're not gonna, the club, if they're gonna make a move to sign anyone, they're gonna be signing him. You don't lose a player like that for free. He's also a player that's so hard to get a adequate replacement for. I know that Liverpool have plenty of centre-backs, but I don't think I'm going to exactly trust Quansah and Konate partnership, or Konate and Gomez, or something like that. That's not going to work. It's not going to be the same. Van Dijk, I think you can get a good few more years out of him. Saying that, if you don't, the only signing that I'd be interested in making, and this is also a very punchy one because I've not done enough research arguably, and this is a player that is very much slept on, especially to people who primarily focus in the Premier League, is Bastoni. Bastoni from Inter Milan is up there as one of the best centre-backs currently in world football, in my opinion. He's amazing for Inter Milan. He's young, great range of passing, very comfortable on the ball, can organise that defence. He's at a good quality team in Inter Milan, but I think a team like Liverpool, if they start sniffing around him with Premier League money behind it, I think you'd be interested. I really think you'd be interested. But once again, this is a player that would probably cost between 70 to 80 million, unfortunately, maybe more, because he is a big deal at Inter Milan, and he would be a very big deal to any team that could sign him. So, to summarise, what do I think? In all honesty, I think Van Dijk stays. I think Salah with negotiation stays. And I think Trent's probably on the move. But what do you think? Let me know in those comments below. I will see you later.